live. Appreciate everybody coming out. It's been, I know it's only Wednesday, but I feel like since the Lost and Found episode happened on Saturday, it's been a few weeks, I can tell you that. And it hasn't. It's not even been a full week. I ended up getting some bad news about a family member, so I ended up missing my lizard ritual episode, and I do still apologize for TFR for that. So if I sound a little off my game, you'll know why. Hello everyone, I'm glad that you're here and you're able to see. It's been a tough week, and I appreciate everybody coming out. At first I didn't even want to do the episode today, but the good news is I saw a lot of really great articles, and I had this really great interview very recently. I think it was like in the last week or so, and I left the link there. Episode 35, The Mandela Effect, Holograms, UFOs with SMQAI. And I think everybody should go out and check out the Cosmic Keys podcast, because it was a great interview. And they asked why I enjoyed this interview the most is they asked a lot of questions that people don't usually ask me, like my background, my family background, my religion, what was my religion growing up. We got into kind of personal things that people haven't bothered to ask me before, and it's kind of strange that people wouldn't ask me those things now that I think about it. But that's out there. Dead Cheapy Case is going to tweet a video to you later. Okay, great. Looking forward to it, about Jupiter. Okay. Yeah, I know there's a lot of craziness still going on with Jupiter. Hey, Linda. Hey, Jim. Data Junkie. Rob. Everybody. Mike. Mandela 108. Dead, obviously. Thank you. So I saw this and I thought that it kind of played together in terms of timing. I thought it was really funny. You can read the article here yourself. It says ancient Egyptian artifacts allegedly spotted in NASA's photo. So, just to be playful, I'm going to immediately get rid of that and then show you, of course. Let me interact. They've got Anderson Cooper here. I wanted to go to CNN, and Europe is sending an alien hunting camera to Mars. I thought that was hilarious that you've got the two and they came out the same day. That's perfect timing. You can't ask for timing like that, right? So hey, what's up, Dark Slayer? I just thought the timing, if you missed it, you'll appreciate this. Right here it says, and this is from Egypt Today, it says ancient Egyptian artifacts allegedly spotted in NASA's photo. Are you ready for this, Dark Slayer? Boom! From CNN, Europe is sending an alien hunting camera to Mars. And the weirdness goes on, right? It just keeps moving and moving and moving. But also, too, I was inspired by other things. Despite my personal difficulties, I was particularly inspired by the interview from Nassim Haramein on the Higher Side chats, talking about the consciousness field, art crystals, and the hollow earth. And then there was earlier, someone tweeted to me a earlier episode of Vanessa VA that she sent out, and I've got that in here. And I didn't include it in the I tweeted it out, but I'll go back and try to remember to include it inside of the description here. But it's basically Dr. John Hagelin, CERN researcher, Harvard physicist, discussed the quantum effect and its effect on the brain. And the whole YouTube talk was so interesting. One, it's a CERN scientist, with all the letters that you would want behind their name that people need to respect someone. But even beyond that, at the risk of making noise with that, I need to get
that's a little bit
that
different.
out here.
Penrose is trying to achieve a bona fide collapse of the wave function,
So,
where one alternative
let me go to YouTube here to
survives
find it,
and the other disappears.
There we go. So it says here, CERN researcher, Harvard physicist discusses consciousness and quantum entanglement. And I would, if I forget to send it, I'll put it here in the chat. And then I think people in the future that missed this will be able to see it in the chat. Around minute 7, it starts to get a bit more legible, and it's really good. It's a really good chat, and it ties nicely. The timing of me getting this the day before that I saw Nassim Haramein's interview talking about the consciousness field on the higher side chats. The synchronicity was perfect. Hopefully it's nice and quiet, and the only thing you hear is my voice. But I'll go ahead and, even though I have that in the description, I'll go ahead and send that here. They tie together really nicely because what Nassim Haramein is talking about is essentially everything boils down to consciousness. And the same thing with, surprise, surprise, the CERN scientists, that everything boils down to consciousness. And as we've said time and time again, I've also included Gateway here. Gateway itself also takes us down to consciousness itself through the Monroe effect, or the Monroe Institute. And thus, because we have that kind of consciousness, there could be some tomfoolery without the sort of conscious field that is below the subatomic, below the wave and particle functions that we have in the quantum world. And then once you get below that, they start talking about consciousness itself. So you can almost see you can almost visualize the hologram, how our consciousness works. And it's just one large consciousness, and all we are is an experience of that consciousness experiencing itself. And you could almost see how the hologram is created. The hologram that's referenced in Gateway, the hologram that's referenced by David Bohm, the hologram essentially that's referenced by Nassim Haramein, the consciousness that's just referenced Tom Campbell, and just over and over and over again. And I was so happy to hear Nassim talk about, I said his first name as if I know him, I feel as if I do, because it was, and I get into the interview, I was getting into, and this is why this was a really good interview, and I wanted to put this here, and I really want to promote the interview, and I want to promote the channel, because they're co-hosts like Chick and I, and they're really good at what they do, and they got a lot out of me that I didn't expect. But more importantly, what we got into was the idea that, a lot of the pop science that's out there, even at the university level, particularly the way in which people kind of casually reference science as an excuse for something or other, they're just off about it. It's not true. It's not real, and it's not factual. And I think it's really interesting, if you take this interview and the way I talk about it, from the way it was described to me from my contact, and then you take the Nassim Haramein article, interview, and then you start to listen to the CERN scientist, the Harvard physicist, Dr. John Hagelin, and it all comes together beautifully, at least to me, because I live the research in that I'm always listening, or I'm always reading, and everything else. And I find that really interesting. And I think another station that I follow, that I admire, they were saying the world is falling apart, essentially. And this is not a traditionally... Well, it is kind of a channel. There's two kinds of channels that are a bit gloom and doom. There's the one kind that actually apply journalistic standards and all these other things, and then there's others that apply, I don't know, it's kind of an anything goes kind of thing. And this one channel I really admire. They do really good work. They put in a lot of time and a lot of care into the work they do. And I respect anyone in any kind of field that they're in. If they take care and they love what they do, it really comes out, and you can really tell that they care about what they do. So this one channel, their recent video basically said the world has gone nuts. It's gone crazy, and society's collapsing. And I think I wouldn't say that's a literal, but pretty close to literal. I'm hardly paraphrasing here. Hey Lisa, how's it going? Linda, if I didn't say hello, Gary, Data Junkie, I think I've said hello to everyone. So hey Mike. So, But the point is, I think it's in a radical transition. I don't know what a radical, what kind of radical transition it's in. But if you take all of this bit of data that we have here, and that we can constantly add to the library, our library, and the library that we're putting together, or we're going to put together, you'll start to see that, it's not a society or a world that's necessarily collapsing. It's a society or a world or a universal consciousness that's in a radical transition right now. Radical. And I don't mean radical like the 1960s radically changed America radical. I mean radical as in it's probably not written down, the radical change that we've only started. And that comes from a point of self-discovery. And I don't know how 2012 ties into it. I don't know how the Mandela effect necessarily ties into it. However, what I can say for sure is that they all tie into this somehow. The leaps that people like Nassim is making, the incredibly profound leaps that they're making, and the going deeper than the atomic, and we sent out on the Patreon this idea of, by the way, we have the Patreon page, and if you want to, we have $2, $5, and $10. All the money will go into creating this new library at Alexandria. I want to create these icons you can click on, and what they can do is give you the full link to like a CIA article, or you can have like almost like a wiki where they give you a summary of it if you don't have the time. Then you can go later and go to the original source material and read it yourself, like Gateway. And then it can kind of spiral out into like this kind of net, spider net kind of thing, if that's what you're into. And then as well as the chat, and we talked about all this already. In fact, let me do a little show you what the Patreon page, this is what it looks like. So far we have 12 glorious Patreons. I still owe them one video for this month. If you're at the top level, you get 3 private videos that I do not share here, and all of that money is going towards the web page, because I talked to a web developer that was really cool, and he gave me the kind of breakdown of, if you want a really good web page, you're going to need like CSS programming and all kinds of other things, not really out of the box kind of web page, a really unique web page. So I want to go all the way with this thing, and I hope you guys, in any way possible, you can contribute. And I mean, just by being here matters to me. And definitely those thumbs up matter very, very much, because it gets the word out. Talking to people, sharing the videos, any way you can is fine. There's also super chats, but I'm happy you're just here and with me, especially on a day like today. I had a rough week. My aunt is very sick, and we don't know. She's intensive care right now, and she pretty much raised my mom, so it's kind of it's been a rough week. So this is going to be my beautiful distraction. So all of these things came together, and it was really cool the way that all this information came together this week for me. And that's how it happens. That's how synchronicities happen. And everything I've provided here in the description as well, you don't even need a particular order. It's just wonderful. And I know that the video that Vanessa VA has, I get that it's a physicist and it's from CERN. But if you go around minute 7, he starts to talk about really profound things with consciousness and the underlying order of consciousness. And then Nassim, he says something really profound for reductive materialism, against it, because I'm against atheism. I believe in a higher power, is that it's a self-sustaining system. It's a self-sustaining, self-replicating system within itself. And anyone knows that if you're an engineer, if you're into computer science, anything like that, that a system just creating itself from nothing, like databases just poof and they're there, that never happens. It doesn't happen. It's irrational. It just doesn't exist. So something like that is very exciting to me. To be given this kind of phraseology like that is very important and exciting to someone like me that is trying to thread the needle in terms of understanding a collective kind of galactic consciousness. That's incredibly important. And and tying it all together to all of the super strangeness we're seeing right now. and the movement of that. And I think, like the Mandela effect, a Mandela effect is a challenging of a system. I think a Mandela effect in a lot of ways is a radical it's a radical rebellion against time as an economic format. And I think the Mandela effect too is also a radical rebuttal to time, linear time, as a social stratifier. You know, we were talking about Dick Van Dyke, and I made the joke, you know, he's still alive, and this has not anything to do with his age. I mean, I know people that have died in their 40s, 50s, 60s, or even younger. So I was just shocked that he was still alive, because so many people came back and said, isn't he dead? And it had nothing to do with the age. It was just, we all remember him being dead. And I remember comedians of his time frame, like was it Tim Conway, Carol Burnett, Dick Van Dyke, just all of those, you know, all of those folks in that sort of time frame, they're all gone now, you know, and Matlock, you know, all of those guys. And it's just very strange when you hear something like this, and then you're backed up by so many people immediately. So I felt pretty good about that. And I've had so much strange things happen around me lately, just personally, beyond the difficulties I've had this last week, and I've been really struggling. But I think the idea of, and I'm trying to look at this more as allegory rather than literal, you know, the idea of there being this radical breakdown in society. And then you see something like ancient Egyptian artifacts allegedly spotted in NASA's photo, and then right after that you have to laugh because Europe is sending an alien hunting camera to Mars. Well, obviously they're sending an alien hunting camera to Mars because they found a pharaoh on Mars. But this is no different. They should be sending something to the moon because we have an Andy Warhol on the moon. And if we have an Andy Warhol on the moon, there's likely going to be a Velvet Underground record on the moon. And if there's going to be a Velvet Underground record on the moon, then certainly we're going to get the likes of Bowie and others. Eventually they'll have different stars that will represent different time frames. You know, it's almost as if each planet or each allegory that represents a planet is reclaiming its past. Perhaps our past itself is just a series of those planets inserting their ideas into our collective consciousness, and something like that. And there was no real past in itself. And every morning that we wake up is really the first morning that we've ever woken up. It's Groundhog Day meets Jacob's Ladder and all of it, you know, on crack, or on steroids, on Red Bull, you know, all of it put together. I don't know. My cats are looking at me like I'm insane. I have candles lit and they smell really good. So, I'm all right. I'm already at 20-minute mark. So I think there's a lot going on with this. I don't think that there's a collapse of a society. I think we're witnessing the radical change of a society. And though I'm very mindful of technology is still a very much an occulted item or items, because it springs forth from our consciousness. But what it's really saying, what technology means. Do you want to know what the secret of technology is? Is that it's not enough. That's what human beings have been. That's the whole Promethean model. It's not enough. What we have is not enough. And so what technology represents, why it's considered heresy, a rebellion, and I don't mean technology like the computer screen you're looking at. I'm talking about something as basic as fire. Why it was considered a rebellious act, because we were created by God, and because of technology we said it wasn't enough. And because we said it wasn't enough, we desired more than what was given to us. Therefore, the creation wasn't perfect. And what this represents in allegory form, whether it's Prometheus, whether it's Icarus, was this journey into not enough. And there's always been the pushback of you're going to fall off the map. The rain won't come this year, or there will be too much rain and it will never stop. And yet, that is such the quintessential human being thing, is to admit it's not enough. And that's what the representation, and that's why we still, I think, and perhaps because I'm in a little bit of pain, I realize that's what human beings, they desire. They do. They want more. I don't mean even, sometimes it comes out in a material way, if that's where you're at in your progression. But in other ways, you understand you want more. You want more because you want to communicate more. You want to see more. You want to understand more. That knowledge is blasphemous because it indicates that it's not enough. What you were given is not enough. Desire itself was seen as bad, is seen as bad. The fact that you can hear my voice is a representation of that desire of people throughout the ages yearning for more. And those intricate systems themselves are having to always move and change. And because of that, there's always growing pains. And perhaps now we're coming to these crossroads where we've burned down all of the old idols and we're starting to burn down the new idols. Whether it's science or anything else, it's all going out the window now. No one believes the media. No one believes our governments. No one believes science. No one believes anything. Everyone's an agent. Everyone's a shill. Everyone is name-calling. Is it a level of discomfort or is it a yearning for more? Like with my aunt, she's very sick, but she's old. Her husband is dead. Her parents are dead. One of her children are dead, and her grandchild is dead. She has just as many people on the other side as she does here, and yet I want her here for my selfish purposes. I want her with me. You see what I'm saying? And as long as there's a chance, I don't care. I want her here with me, and I can't get around that. I can recognize it, which I couldn't before, and I can understand in the abstract that it would be better sometimes when you're in that kind of pain to let go. But I can't reason. I'm beyond reason right now. I'm not in that state right now. I see, my other family members, they're in pain as well. And I can't reason beyond that. I want to, and I get it. And I want to be at a place if I get to my 70s or I get to my 80s where I can also too say, I want to just go. I'm done. I've had enough. I tried to not turn this into an episode like this, but I get to know you guys. I've been doing this for so long. This is what I've got going on in my life. You're seeing, this is like a living diary. It's a living journal. It's news. It's just everything. This is. But it matters too to record these kinds of things because I always talk about things in the abstract, and now I'm living through pain in real time, like right now. And I'm, you think things in the abstract without emotion because you're able to do that. But boy, does that come to a stop when it gets really real. Yeah, does she indicate she wants to go? We don't know yet because, and no one really dies. And that's what I mean. She has family on the other side. Now, does that mean she becomes part of the consciousness again? and it's kind of a right-hand path kind of thing where you're poof and you're immediately part of it? Or does she maintain a piece of herself? I don't know. Does she get to maintain that kind of autonomy? And even if you become part of the collective again, is there that piece stored away? I don't know. And in terms of her indicating if she wants to go or not, she's lucid at times, but they keep putting her back under because they keep doing different things in terms of like just different tests and things. So they got to put her back under and then bring her up and put her back under. But I know I've been around death enough to understand what it starts to, what death starts to look like. I'm very familiar, and I know it may not be here, but it's very, very close. I sense it. It's around. It's a force, and it's not something to play with. So, but I guess this is important, because what is that when you get way, way, way down there to that consciousness? That is interesting. And in a lot of ways, I guess it is a bit left-hand path, because I think it would be a shame to immediately immerse yourself into that vast beyond of consciousness stream and there be nothing. And this consciousness experiencing itself in the form of you, and there be no ledger of that for no reason, doesn't make a lot of sense. You would think at least the understanding of that, the watermark of that, a ledger of that, would somehow be maintained. So therefore, if the consciousness that's below, the subatomic, below the particles, below the waves, below the thoughts, below all of those things, that it's able to still keep the books balanced in the galactic ledger. I hope so. And that's a bit left-hand pathy, but I understand that there's a lot of negative connotations to that. But it cannot be denied. The individual stubbornness and will is there. It's there. Huh. Orion, people are talking in the, a car accident brought me here to Orion. Yeah, Orion, went back to Sagittarius. Yeah, well, I hear you. I understand. I totally get it. I have on my Twitter feed, I said Orphan of Sagittarius because, we're all kind of here. You know what I'm saying? Is it still Earth? I don't know if there was ever really Earth. I know there was an idea of Earth, and people told us there was Earth. But if you get down deep into that consciousness, like they talk about at Monroe or Gateway or wherever else, it's something more profound, being here, wherever here is. And I do believe there was a switch. And I do believe it's from Sagittarius to Orion. And I believe that we are in some small way aliens. And because of that, we are disrupting this timeline. We are disrupting this realm. And that's why it looks like it's collapsing. And a lot of people that may be from this realm, or a lot of people that have arrived here and don't understand this realm, think the world is ending. And it's not ending. It's just going through a radical, radical change right now. I don't know specifically what it is, but it's happening. And it's happening at a level that's far, far below what we are and what we understand. We can just feel it. Way down there, we can feel it. And it's real. So, for as bad as it can seem sometimes, or for, and it is just an interpretation. Pain itself, it still has to be part of the equation. You cannot escape it. There has to be the sweet and sour. Has to be. So, I think I've rambled on long enough. Hopefully, anyone new to the channel, I didn't scare anyone off. Usually we're much more on point. I wanted to get on here because my game has been off now since Saturday. So, we will get back together. Please check out those links. They're really great. And come to the Patreon. Become patrons? I don't know the word. But help us build the library. We got 12 of you guys. Come on over. $2, $5, $10. What you get is 2 videos you don't get here. For the $5. For $10 a month, you get the 3 videos you don't get. And what we do over there is more technical, and we get deeper than we get here. And they're frankly videos that probably wouldn't do very well on YouTube. And they're more technical, and we get much deeper on specifics about things. And we're going to get very deep and more specific about the research. So they wouldn't be, I don't think, as popular over here. So it would be someone who's really more into the research side of it, which would, And if not, the thumbs up is perfectly awesome. A thumbs up is wonderful. And just the same crew showing up all the time I love seeing you guys here. And don't ever change your icons, because I know you buy your names in your icons. Like Lisa and Jim and Data Junkie, everybody. Linda. If I forget anybody, please, I mean no. Mike. I know. Let's see who else is in here. Who else do we got? Go-Kart Bob. Someone's at my front door, but I don't want to answer. So they can go away. Dead GPK, which I mentioned. Jeffrey, hello, welcome. Alright, folks, I'm gonna boogie. So, thank you. And I'll catch you probably in a couple days. What is it? Wednesday? So at the latest, I'll catch you Saturday. See ya.